So Hershey like did have grades, but I think like what Elise said was like really like applicable is that you weren't like striving for the A, you were striving to do work that you were proud of and carrying that over into college. Like obviously good grades are important and they can do a lot of things for you, but if you value the work that you're doing and like the success and like achievement of your own work and it's something you can be proud of, I think the grade will follow rather than just like monotonous like going through the motions of just doing the work for the sake of getting it done. um I think that when you place value, like your own value on something, it'll turn out better than if you were just doing it for a letter.
I would have to agree with Erin on that too. I did have like a very steep learning curve probably the first semester that I got into college because like 50% of my grade was based on one exam and I wasn't prepared or ready for that. But once I took a good look at why I was doing what I was doing, I realized that if I just dove more into understanding the work that I was doing because it was interesting to me, it was a lot easier to at least be prepared for my exams in a way that wasn't as stressful. So instead of trying to cram for every exam and just memorize things, it was more of a I know what I know. So I would strive to just dive in a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more about it. And then I felt way more prepared for my exams. And then as a result of being more prepared, I did better.
Um, it was an interesting adaptation for me as well, going to OU because it is a big school. Um, but like finding passion in your education, I think that's been the trend that everyone's been saying is you find passion in your work, and that kind of carries you through the experience.
Like in my experience, I was definitely like very nervous about like learning how to take like tests, like that type of assessment. But I feel like our writing and our presentation skills, like those are things that other students I feel like hadn't developed as well as we did. So especially now being in upper level courses, where most of like what you're being assessed on, at least like in like psychology classes, is more about like, can you present your work? Can you write a good paper? Like working on like a research project, like a long-term research project, like thinking through all of the steps and being able to like invest in something that you're working on for a long time. I think those are skills that I was really primed for already at Hershey. And unfortunately, like some of that I had to couch for like the first couple of years. So it's kind of interesting that you're developing these skills that I guess like university sometimes thinks that you're not ready for until like you're later into your degree, but we were already working on those skills. So there were certain projects that I felt like, or assessments that I had to like invest more time in like learning that skill set, but there were other things that like I didn't have to worry about that I saw my peers worrying about. So I think it kind of like evened out, at least like in my area of study, but maybe like in a STEM field like McKenna, that's very heavy on just testing, especially like in intro courses, maybe that's a steeper curve where there's not as much of that scale balancing.
Yeah, I will say that definitely for the first few years, that's how it was. But I agree with Elise now that all of my work is projects. I don't really have any exams anymore. So a lot of my peers were well versed in taking exams, cramming for quizzes. They would get pretty good grades. But now, because I had that experience of project work, I know how to start a project and how to keep it going and finish it instead of starting at last minute or not really knowing how to tie the whole big picture together. So I definitely agree that now with all the project work, I was much more prepared for that.
I transitioned into a like traditional school for year 11 and 12 for me to graduate, and they definitely expected there that I would really struggle, not be able to get good grades, not really be able to pursue any leadership positions or anything like that. But I was able to do really well at that school. And I think that's because at Hershey, we learnt so hands-on that you felt like you were learning those skills and that information for real life because you were applying it to real life scenarios. And like when we were learning about science, we applied that to the farm. So it was really instilled in us that you were learning that information for life rather than learning it to pass the next exam or do well on the next assessment. So I really carried that over to my next school. and made sure that when I did learn things, I was learning it for the long term, and I was learning it so that I could help my peers understand it as well. And since we had such a strong emphasis on community at Hershey, I was so eager to help my friends learn the content as well. And that really reinforced all of the knowledge and made me know what I wanted to know inside out. And then that worked really well for me when I went to university, because when you do learn that stuff in a career like paramedicine, you don't want to just know it for the test. You want to know it so you can use it for a patient one day. It's not really the kind of information that you can be like, oh yeah, we covered that in uni, but it's not going to come up. So Hershey prepared me really, really well for that environment, and it made sure that I knew my knowledge for the long term rather than just for the next assessment.